In the annals of strange and perplexing disappearances, the Yuba County Five stands out as a chilling enigma. It's a story that has confounded investigators, stumped amateur sleuths, and sent conspiracy theories into overdrive. Imagine 5 young men vanish into the frigid wilderness after a basketball game, only to leave behind a baffling trail of half-eaten snacks, a stranded car, and a cabin with an even more horrifying secret. On February 24, 1978, 5 men from Yuba City, California, Jackie Hewitt, Bill Sterling, Jack Madruga, Ted Wire, and Gary Mathias, made plans to go to a college basketball game in Chico, California. 4 of the group had some form of learning disability. The 5th, Gary Mathias, was being treated for paranoid schizophrenia. They were fondly called the Boys by their loved ones. Soon, however, they became known to the nation as the Yuba County Five. The men's favorite leisure activity was sports. Their families said that when the 5 of them got together, it was usually to play a game or to watch one. They played basketball together on a team called the Gateway Gators, a team supported by a local program for people with mental disabilities. On February 25, they were due to play their first game in a week-long tournament sponsored by the Special Olympics, for which the winners would get a free week in Los Angeles. The 5 men had prepared the night before, some even laying out their uniforms and asking their parents to wake them up on time. They decided to drive to Chico that same night to cheer on the UC Davis basketball team in an away game against Chico State. After the Davis team won the game, the group got back into Madruga's car and drove a short distance from Chico State to Bears Market in downtown Chico. There they bought snacks, sodas, and cartons of milk to drink. It was shortly before the store's 10 p.m. closing time. The clerk later remembered the men because she was annoyed that such a large group had come in and delayed her from beginning the process of closing the store for the night. None of the men were seen alive again after that point. At their homes, some of their parents waited up to make sure they returned. When morning came, and they had not, the police were notified. What happened to the Yuba County Five remains shrouded in mystery. Instead of arriving home after the basketball game, police say they turned off the motorway and headed up onto a mountain road that the families say none of them were familiar with. 4 days later, on February 28, Jack's car was found abandoned in a remote area of the Plumas National Forest, in an area known as the Oroville-Quincy Road, some 69 miles from Chico. The vehicle was in fine shape, the keys were gone, it had not run out of fuel. Evidence found inside the car suggested the men had been in it between the time when they were last seen and when it was abandoned. The empty wrappers and containers from the food and drinks they had purchased from the store in Chico were present, along with programs from the basketball game they had attended and a neatly folded road map of California. However, the discovery of the car raised more questions than it answered. Police were puzzled why the men had abandoned the car. The car had become stuck in some snowdrifts, and there was evidence that the men had tried to spin the wheels to get out of it. Police noted that the snow was not very deep, and that 5 healthy young men should have easily been able to push it out. Efforts to search the vicinity were hampered by a severe snowstorm that day. 2 days later, after searchers and snowcats nearly became lost themselves, further search efforts were called off due to continuing bad weather. No trace of the men was found other than the car. On June 4th, a group of motorcyclists went to a deserted trailer maintained by the United States Forest Service at a campsite off the road about 19.4 miles from where the car had been found. The front window of the trailer had been broken. When they opened the door, they were overcome by the odor of what turned out to be a decaying body inside. It was later identified as Wire's. Wire's body was on a bed with 8 sheets wrapped around it, including the head. The autopsy showed that he had died of a combination of starvation and hypothermia. Wire had lost nearly half his 200 pounds. The growth of his beard suggested he had lived slightly more than 3 months from when he had last shaved. His feet were badly frostbitten, almost gangrenous. On a table next to the bed were some of Wire's personal effects, including his wallet with cash, a nickel ring with Ted engraved on it, and a gold necklace he also wore. Also on the table was a gold watch, without its crystal, which Wire's family said was not his, and a partially melted candle. He was wearing a velour shirt and lightweight pants, but his shoes could not be found. Most puzzling to the investigators was how Wire had come to his fate. No fire had been set in the trailer's fireplace, despite an ample supply of matches and paperback novels to use as kindling. Heavy forestry clothing, which could have kept the men warm, also remained where it had been stored. A dozen C ration cans from a storage shed outside had been opened and their contents consumed, but a locker in the same shed that held an even greater assortment of dehydrated foods Enough to keep all 5 men fed for a year if that had been necessary had not even been opened. Similarly, another shed nearby held a butane tank with a valve that, had it been opened, would have fed the trailer's heating system. It also appeared that Wire had not been alone in the trailer, and that Matthias and possibly Hewitt had also been there. Matthias's tennis sneakers were in the trailer, and the sea rations had been opened with a P-38 can opener, with which only Matthias or Madruga would have been familiar from their military service. Matthias, his feet perhaps also swollen from frostbite, could have decided to put Waher's shoes on instead if he had ventured outside. The sheets all over Waher's body also suggested that one of the others had been there with him, as his gangrenous feet would have been in too much pain for him to pull them over his body himself. The next day, searchers found remains that were later identified as those of Madruga and Sterling on opposite sides of the road, 11.4 miles from where the car had been. Madruga's body had been partially consumed by scavenging animals. Only bones remained of Sterling, scattered over a small area. Autopsies showed that they both died of hypothermia. Deputies think that one of them may have given in to the need to sleep that comes with the last stages of hypothermia, while the other stayed by his side and died the same way. 2 days later, as part of one of the other search parties, Hewitt's father found his son's backbone under a manzanita bush 2 miles northeast of the trailer. His shoes and jeans nearby helped identify the body. The next day, a deputy sheriff found a skull downhill from the bush, 300 feet away, confirmed by dental records later to have been Hewitt's. His death, too, was attributed to hypothermia. In an area to the northwest of the trailer, roughly a quarter mile away, searchers found 3 Forest Service blankets and a rusted flashlight by the road. It could not be determined how long those items had been there. No trace of Matthias has ever been found. Matthias's sister, Tammy Phillips, said it was likely that he had gone weeks without his medication, which would have impacted his mental health. "I do believe he didn't make it out of there any more than the other boys did," she added. "But some people believe Gary is still alive." The disappearance of the Yuba County Five isn't just a story about loss. It's a testament to the enduring power of mystery. Every clue invites more questions than answers, leaving the case shrouded in an almost mythic aura. Will we ever know the truth? Maybe not. But the legacy of the Yuba County Five lives on, a strange and sorrowful tale that continues to captivate and confound.